It was a calm Sunday morning in our quiet suburban neighborhood in Colorado, the kind of day where nothing feels urgent and everything moves just a little slower. I was sitting in the kitchen, sipping my coffee, wrapped in my cozy robe, and watching the birds flutter around the feeder just outside the window. My husband, Mark, had flown out 2 days earlier for a week-long construction project in Montana. That left just me and Caleb, my 18-year-old stepson, in the house. Caleb had always been polite, respectful, and mostly kept to himself. He was the kind of kid who didn't make much noise but whose presence was still felt. Ever since his mom passed away 4 years ago, he had grown even quieter. I met Mark shortly after that, and our marriage meant that Caleb and I had to figure out how to share a home. At first, we were like strangers trying to be friendly. Over time, we grew into something more like a team, though not quite a traditional mother and son. That morning, I hadn't expected anything out of the ordinary. Caleb was usually still in bed until noon on the weekends, so I was surprised when he walked into the kitchen just before 9 a.m., fully dressed and hair still damp from a shower. He greeted me with a sleepy morning, and I smiled back. Up early for a Sunday, I teased, sipping my coffee. Yeah, figured I'd start working on the garage like Dad asked, he replied, grabbing a granola bar from the pantry. It's a mess in there. I remembered Mark had been asking both of us for weeks to organize the garage, sort through the boxes, and make space for new tools. We kept putting it off, but here Caleb was volunteering to take initiative. I was impressed. Well, I'll be inside if you need help, I said. Let me know if you find any of those old Halloween decorations. I want to toss some of them. He nodded, and I watched him head out the back door, his tall frame disappearing behind the curtain. It felt good to see him take ownership of something. For a teenager who had gone through so much loss, even small steps like this felt meaningful. I went about my day, folding laundry, answering emails, and vacuuming the living room. Hours passed, and the occasional sound of boxes shifting or the garage door squeaking open let me know Caleb was still at it. Around lunchtime, I decided to make sandwiches for the both of us. I took a tray outside and found him sitting on the garage floor, surrounded by piles of old holiday lights, camping gear, and toolboxes. Thought you could use a break, I said, handing him a plate. Thanks, he said, smiling up at me. I actually found something weird. Look at this. He reached behind a stack of paint cans and pulled out a small wooden box. It looked ancient, with faded carvings on the surface and a rusted latch. I didn't recognize it. Was this yours or Dad's? He asked. I've never seen it before, I said, curious. Open it. Inside the box were old photographs, yellowed with age. Some were of people I didn't recognize, men in uniforms, women with 1960s hairstyles, and old-fashioned cars in the background. Caleb and I sat there going through them for a while, trying to piece together who these people might have been. This one kind of looks like Dad, Caleb said, holding up a picture of a boy who must have been around 12 years old. He had Mark's eyes. That might be your grandfather, I said, squinting. Mark never talks much about his childhood. Maybe he put this box away and forgot about it. Should we show him when he gets back? Definitely. We packed everything carefully back into the box and set it aside. That simple discovery made the garage feel like more than just a storage space. It was like we'd uncovered a little piece of history. I noticed that Caleb seemed more animated, more curious. His usual distance was replaced by genuine interest, and I realized how rare it was to share moments like this with him. Later that evening, as I was preparing dinner, I heard a knock on my bedroom door. Caleb stood there awkwardly, holding something behind his back. I wanted to give you something, he said. I raised an eyebrow. Okay. He revealed a photo frame, one of the old pictures from the box. He had cleaned it up and placed it behind glass. Thought you might like this one. It kind of looks like you, maybe an old relative. I took the frame and stared at it. The woman in the picture did bear a resemblance. Same cheekbones, same nose. I couldn't be sure, but something about her expression felt familiar. I smiled, touched by the gesture. Thank you, Caleb. This is really thoughtful. He shrugged, trying to play it cool. It's nothing. Just figured you might want it. Over dinner, we talked more than we had in weeks. He asked me about my childhood, my parents, my high school days, and I was surprised by how intently he listened. Usually, teenagers rolled their eyes at stories that started with "back when I was your age," but not Caleb. He was engaged, asking questions, even laughing at the right moments. As the week went on, something changed in our dynamic. We began to function like a real family, eating meals together, watching shows in the evening, and even teaming up to cook. I was genuinely enjoying his company, and it felt like he was opening up more with each passing day. But then came Friday. That morning, I found a letter slid under my bedroom door. It was handwritten in careful print, obviously Caleb's handwriting. The letter wasn't long, but it left me stunned. He wrote about how he appreciated everything I had done for him over the past few years. He said he'd never had someone treat him with so much kindness and understanding since his mother died. But then he said something that made my heart race. He wrote that he was confused, that the feelings he had were complicated, and he didn't know what to do with them. He said he looked up to me, admired me, and lately, he wasn't sure if what he felt was just gratitude or something deeper. He apologized, said he wasn't trying to upset me, but he had to be honest because it was eating him up inside. I sat there on the edge of the bed, unsure what to feel. Part of me wanted to tear up the letter and pretend it never existed. Another part of me ached for him, for the grief he'd bottled up, for the years he spent without a mother figure, and for the confusion he must have felt as he tried to make sense of emotions too heavy for his age. I took a deep breath and went to find him. He was in the living room, watching something on TV, trying to act like everything was normal. When he saw me holding the letter, his face fell. "Caleb," I began gently. "I read what you wrote. Thank you for being honest." He looked away, clearly embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have." "No, don't apologize," I interrupted. "You've been through so much, and I understand that it can be confusing. But I want you to know something very important. What you're feeling doesn't make you a bad person. It just means you're trying to find connection. You've lost a lot, and maybe I